Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
You are so gracious. Everyone listening can know that we did this once before, and it was back in the fall of 2023 when I was having some internet issues. And I really wanted to make that episode work because it was so good, but it was just terrible quality. So, Melissa, thank you for coming back on, and I can't wait to get to talk again.
Well, thank you. I am glad to come back on. I'm glad to spend more time with you. And I
Mm,
really look forward to the time we can sit face to face in
amen.
person.
We need to make that happen. We need to figure that out. Well, I have been so inspired by following you and your husband, Jonathan, and your whole family. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we originally met, I'm not sure which came first, but you have a daughter who's at the same college as my second son is, and my first son was, and they've met.
Yes,
And then even before that, I think we were introduced from a mutual friend, Joy Bollinger. So
exactly. That's
love
how
it.
we originally met, was
Yep.
through Joy, because she knew you had a son,
At
or
Westmont.
actually you had two at that time.
Yep, yep.
And she knew our Eliana was going to be attending there.
Mm,
And she connected us.
that's right. And I guess
Yeah,
one of my boys had lunch with your husband and Eliana, and he was like, "Wow, what an impressive family." So then
that's
I
right.
had to track you
Because he's an
down.
Augustinian, the Augustinian weekend.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yes.
fun. And Eliana's had a good experience so far through the Augustinian program?
Had a phenomenal
Yay.
experience.
Yay.
Phenomenal.
Ah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, she's just one of your 7 amazing kids. So before we jump into today's topic, why don't you just tell people a little bit about you, your family, and even where you're at and all that?
Okay. Well, we do have 7 children that I gave birth to. I actually birthed them,
It's a
and
lot.
people are amazed at that. And all 7 of them have been homeschooled by me, and
Mhm,
they're all in college or have been through college. Our two oldest, Simeon, he has been married 2 years now
mhm,
and homeschooled him. He has his master's in music performance. He's a classical
mhm,
violinist. Tatiana, she also has her master's in, actually, her undergrad was in writing and her master's was in sports law and business. And then there's a 5 year gap. I call those my years of rebellion. And then I gave
Oh.
birth to Elijah.
Uh,
And Elijah is our prophet. He is our
mm.
intellectual. He's the one that everybody calls when they want to know more information.
Ooh, I love it.
You would love to meet him. He's the
Mm,
conversationalist. He and I talk all the time. And then there is Judah. And Judah is a D1 basketball player. His first 2 years, he played for St. Mary's in Northern California. And now he is in South Alabama. And
wow.
he's in his senior year. The whole family is going out this next week
Mm,
for that senior game and to hang
amazing.
out a little bit with him. And then after Judah is Eliana, who's at Westmont, and she's a double major in kinesiology and art.
Oh, wow.
And then there is Joshua, who's currently applying to colleges, one of
Mm.
them, which is Westmont.
Alright, let's go.
And then our youngest is 14, and that's Joseph. And
Mm,
he's a math man. He's definitely a mathematician following in his father's footsteps. My
wow.
husband and I have been in full time ministry. I married into ministry.
Mm,
Did not know this is where the Lord was taking me, but that's where we landed. I
wow.
landed, and we've been married for 31 years.
Mhm,
And most of that time we have spent in full time ministry and with me homeschooling.
mhm. That's just a
And
little bit.
that's, yeah, yeah, just
Wow.
a little bit. And currently, our ministry, our business, our work is called Lifeways for Living.
Mhm,
And we do counseling and life coaching. And my husband and I do the marriage together. We
mhm,
do what we like to call training, marriage training,
mm, mm,
especially in communication, because
mhm,
we find that a lot of people are married, but they don't know how to do marriage.
Mhm.
And much
Yeah.
less do they know how to do communication. And no fault of their own. It's
Yeah.
just our culture and our times, and no one has
Mhm.
took the time to show them how. And
Mhm.
so we like to do that. We like to
Mhm.
take the time to show people how to do marriage, how to do family, how to do parenting, how to live together in a way
I
that
love
glorifies
it.
God.
Man,
Yeah.
that is such good stuff, and I love that, and I even love that you use the word training because, I have my character training course, and I think marriage communication training is just practice, practice doing things the
Yeah.
right way,
Yes.
and I so appreciate that, and I love that you mentioned to no fault of their own because I think so many people are raised by parents who have broken or dysfunctional marriages, and if we haven't been taught, which,
Yes.
schools don't teach this stuff, so how are you supposed to know if you don't find somebody to help walk you through that? And I just love that you guys do that, and you do it both in person and virtually, is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the great things that came out of COVID
Mhm.
is that it's with such facility we can now do these things, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, from everything I've seen online, you guys are doing a great job and you have so much wisdom and yet you seem to have a great friendship as well as just such a healthy family. The whole picture is just beautiful, and I would love to think so many other people can learn from that and be inspired. So maybe let's jump into marriage first since we're there, and tell us just maybe some of the things for those who are younger in their marriage, earlier years, they've got little kids, it's hectic, it's stressful, sometimes finances are stressful. What are some ways you've been intentional about building this marriage to get you to where you're at 31 years and still going strong?
Well, that's a great question. And I think intentionality is
Mhm.
being intentional is one of my favorite things and
Mhm.
one of my favorite words. And we
Mhm.
really, when we did our parenting book, we wanted to call it intentional parenting,
Yeah.
but there were other books already called
Yeah,
that. So
exactly.
we had to go with purposeful. And
Which
so
is
I'm
great
glad.
too. Good word.
Yes, yes, yes. And so for us in marriage, I married into ministry, and marrying into ministry put us in a group of people that
Mm,
were people who lived intentionally for
mm,
Jesus.
mm,
And that was such a blessing for me in particular, because although I grew up in a Christian home, I didn't have that example outside of my
mhm,
parents'
mhm,
community
mhm.
of this Christian life being lived so intentionally.
Yeah.
And so when we got married and we were in this community of believers,
Mhm,
some of within that group of believers came another group which they called the newly marrieds.
mhm,
And in that newly marrieds group was a couple, Layman and Margaret Bishop, who came alongside several of us newly marrieds.
mhm,
You had to be like married 5 years or less.
mhm,
And in there, it's out of that time and that place that my husband and I, we learned so much from them. We
mhm,
learned that in marriage, it is simply living life together. But two things that we learned was that one, we needed to be kind to each other.
mhm. Wow.
Such a simple, basic truth.
Simple, but lacking in many, many marriages, yeah.
Isn't it true?
And not
Um,
easy to do on a regular daily basis, right?
you
Sometimes
know,
you
it's
forget.
that's why it has to be intentional.
Mm,
That's
mm,
why it has to be purposeful. Because
mhm,
if we don't set out with that mindset, we do
mhm,
forget.
mhm,
We just
mm,
move through the day trying to get done
mhm.
life
Yeah.
when the relationships is what it's about,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
the second thing that they taught us, I think that made our marriage so much richer was they said, don't stay focused only on our relationship.
Hmm.
Be ministry minded
Mm,
in our marriage and family.
mm.
Be ministry minded to one another, but then to others, the people around us.
Yeah. Wow.
That changed the game altogether.
Yeah. Yep.
You
Yep.
know, because
Mm.
when you are doing this relationship not only for yourselves
Mhm.
but for those watching you, namely your children,
Mhm.
and also for your community,
Yes.
and you're
Yes.
serving your community through this marriage, the focus is not so much on all the problems you're having,
Mhm. Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
But in using those problems to be a service to others and helping them with their problems.
Such a shift there. Such a shift. I mean, that alone can change everything because you're getting those eyes off of, especially the speck in your spouse's eye, right, for one, but
Yes.
then also just off it because you can build a relationship to be so big that it's all you see instead of realizing, "Wait, actually, we could be serving each other and being a blessing to those who are watching." That's enormous.
And it is. And not to diminish the value of the marriage
Mhm, mhm.
within itself to the glory of God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the marriage is to represent Christ in the church,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But what is Christ in the church about? It's about a
Mm.
relationship,
Mhm.
and this relationship ministering to others,
So good. I love it.
right?
Yeah. And I know you guys have some real practical help too, just for the communication itself, for how to communicate effectively. We could have many episodes. We could bring your husband on and
Oh,
have
that
a
would be
couple
fun.
the couple. Oh, we could do a fun. Okay, we'll have to talk about other things we could do because really, I just love seeing the two of you together sharing. So let's move on. I mean,
Okay.
clearly, all these things overlap and relate to one another, but in the greater family picture with the 7 kids, you and your husband doing ministry, even then, it can be hard to really make faith central in such a way that it is practical and even, I say, attractive to the kids, meaning we wanna raise kids who look at us and go, "Oh, I wanna have a relationship with Jesus like my mom has. I wanna trust
Mm.
God like my dad does." Have you had some success in ways to do that practically that you've seen really spill over into kids who then grow up and own their own faith?
I'll tell you what, I think this is our strength, my husband and I
Mm.
together. This
Yay.
is our strength.
Let's
This
go.
is the meat of who we are
Mm.
and what we have done with our children. I'm getting chills.
Me
Okay.
too, I'm ready.
so,
Uh,
so it is parenting is all about discipleship.
mhm,
That's what it is. At least that is what the Lord has revealed to us. This
mhm.
is how we have moved.
Yeah,
This is how we coach others and encourage others
yeah,
and teach others. Parenting is discipleship. So
yeah.
basically, it's follow me as I follow Christ.
Yes, yes.
Okay? That's it at its bare bones, right?
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
the way we did that in our family is we lived out intimacy of relationship with Jesus
mhm.
because life is relationships, the rest is
Yep,
just deep. And
love it.
so we lived out intimacy of relationship with Jesus, namely and primarily by us having individual devotional time.
Mhm,
So me
mhm,
spending time with Jesus, my husband spending his time with Jesus, us as a family spending time together with
mhm.
Jesus,
So
and
good.
then teaching our children how to have alone time with the Lord.
Absolutely.
So we taught them that.
Mm,
And so I think the thing that was a blessing for our children and our relationship with them was one of the things was that we did homeschool.
yeah.
So we had daily
Mhm.
devotion time with our children every single morning. My husband wasn't
Wow.
always able to be part of that
Mhm.
because he was at work,
Sure.
but I did that.
Mhm.
You know, so as part of the team, the marriage team,
Yep.
or the parenting team, I took that on in the mornings during the week. When
Mhm.
daddy was home, Saturday mornings, daddy was there with us, and he mostly led that time
Mm.
with us. And we had amazing time
Wow.
of just worshiping together.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it was a cappella. And some of us don't sing, and some of us do.
Make me feel better.
Yeah. And then just opening up the word together
Mhm, mhm.
and reading, going around round robin,
Yep.
everybody taking a turn reading,
Mhm,
and then talking about it.
mhm,
And this is where we spent a lot of time. The
mhm.
children asking questions, the parents giving input, and
Yep.
just having conversation
Nothing
around
better.
the things of God,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. So
And
good.
then we would pray,
Mhm,
lots of prayer.
mhm.
And so this became who we were.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even to this day, we have several adult children. We only have two at home now.
Mhm. Right.
And so even our adult children, they'll still come back, ask questions,
Yeah.
talk about the things of God, talk about what's going on out there,
Mhm.
asking questions. I call my children, my
Mm.
Eliana at Westmont. Oh
Yeah.
my God, the girl is incredible, and the way
Mm,
that the Lord reveals things to her. And
mm,
so these things have really, they have led to our relationship with one another and as a
mm.
family
Yeah.
just coming together and bonding together. Our
Mhm,
children love being together.
mhm,
They even, Eliana is in Santa Barbara.
mhm,
Three of her older siblings are in Orange County.
mhm.
They planned this outing. They and went to, where'd they go? Disneyland. They went to Disneyland, but
Uh-huh.
they also went somewhere else. And Eliana took the train to
Mm,
LA.
to
They
meet up.
picked her up and
Mm,
they all went out together.
the best. The best, right?
It is the
N
best
Yeah, yeah.
because they love each other and they like each other and
Mm.
they want to be with each other. What a gift. What an
What a
incredible.
gift. And yes, and circling back to what you just shared about the family and devotions, all of that, their hearts were knit together in those moments because they
Absolutely.
have Christ at the center, and there's just no shortcut to that. There's no quick way to force that. It's the day in and day out hearts being knit together with God at the center, and that's not always easy. And in fact, we
Yes.
love the picture of what you've got now, but I'm sure there were days when they were young, some of them were probably interrupting or didn't want to join in or had other things to do. Any encouragement for those people with little ones who just love this vision but feel like maybe it's not very practical yet?
As you said before, with them when we were talking about the marriage and I
Mm,
said training.
mhm.
And
There
how
we
you
go.
like that word because
Love it.
training is what people need because they
Mhm.
haven't been given
Yeah,
these tools.
yeah, yeah,
And I would say that's all it takes.
yeah.
Okay. Our children knew what we were doing.
Mhm.
They knew the structure of it.
Yep.
They knew what was expected. It wasn't
Mhm.
like all of a sudden we're doing something they don't know. So if we're
Exactly.
starting with something they don't know,
Mhm.
all you have to do is train them.
Mm.
You don't have to get frustrated or irritated with them. You are learning something new if you haven't been doing devotions with them on a
Mhm.
regular basis.
Yep.
Be patient with yourself, be patient
Mhm.
with your children. And
Yes.
all you're going to do is teach them,
Mhm.
train them, explain to them on their level. Don't give them an entire thesis, but
Right?
give them simple words.
Mm.
Mommy and daddy and you and brother and sister or whoever are going to sit down and we're going to spend time to get to know God and
Mhm.
hear from him and to
Mm.
talk to him and to sing
Mhm.
to him and to just be together.
Yes.
Is that great? Of course,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
We just have to let our children know what we're thinking sometimes
Right. Yeah, communicate. Right.
and help them understand their part in it.
Yes. I love
You-
that. And I love that like you said, once you make it a regular part of the family, it's just normal. It's really,
Yeah,
and I so often refer to Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I think it's chapter 11 again, that just talks about this whole thing of passing on God's commands. You know, Moses is telling the Israelites, talk about it when you get up, when you walk along the street, when you lie down. That's a whole lifestyle, right?
that's
It's all
exactly
day,
it.
every day.
That's
Yes.
exactly it.
But I also think there's something there to your love of the Lord, your genuine commitment to his word and your husband's, because that's contagious too. And I'll never forget when I did a little Q&A and somebody asked what to do with a teenager who didn't want to go to church. And I turned to my 24-year-old and said, Josiah, what do you say to this? And his response was essentially, when your kids see you as a parent excited about church, when you're like, oh, it's the best day of the week, we get to go gather with God's people and worship and celebrate. Like, when you have that attitude, your kids cannot help but be impacted. Maybe not in the moment. That might not mean they get up and say, I can't wait to go to church, but that's going to imprint on their heart and mind as something really special. So I believe that what you're doing with your kids too is just modeling your sincere faith, not a perfect faith, but an authentic faith, right?
That's all it is.
Yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
Lord didn't say be perfect.
Right.
Although there is a translation of the scripture that says, be
Be
perfect as I am perfect, but
right. Through Jesus only.
through Jesus.
Yeah.
But this is authenticity, it's
Mhm.
sincerity,
Yep.
it's just being who you are before your
Mm.
children. And there was a lady that asked me once, because we had gone to a place we had never been before. It was a church group type thing,
Mhm.
wasn't our church, and we had been invited. And she came up to me and said, I want to know what you did with your children.
I love that question.
And I said,
Nothing could, yeah, it's the
well,
best.
she says, well, I just want you to know I've been talking to each of them. I
There we
pulled
go.
them aside. You know, people are watching.
Yeah, they are.
And she specifically, this was when Ellie, this was like 5 years ago. So
Mhm.
Eliana was like 14, 13,
Mhm.
12, somewhere in there. And she said, I work with parents and families.
Mhm.
And what I see in your children is what the people I work with are after, looking for,
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm looking for my children. And I haven't been able to attain to it.
Mhm.
What are you doing? And I just went down the list of the normal everyday
Yeah,
things
yeah.
and said, that's not it. Because I'm doing those things and I'm
Ooh,
these people to do those things. What else is there? And I
ooh.
said, well, the only thing I can tell you other than that is my husband and I believe God and take him at his word.
Wow.
And she said, that's it.
Wow.
That's
Powerful.
it. And I believe with all my heart, not because I am perfect, not because
Mhm.
I'm perfect, but because our
Mm,
God is perfect and we're
mhm.
convinced of it.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
convinced of it.
Yes.
We don't always get why he does what he does, but he's God and I'm not. So if he
So good.
says, then it's got to be right.
Preached. So good. Because that isn't something you can pass on by doing daily devotions and checking them off your list or
No.
singing a
Yeah,
song or dragging kids to church. But when they see mom and dad actually walk their talk, they are putting it all out there, trusting in God and his word and his ways. There's nothing there's nothing better. So good.
that's it, Monica.
Woo. Oh,
It's
I'm
so
encouraged.
basic, right?
Right.
Just be you. I mean, even if you're, I mean, this is encouragement for some people, maybe when
Mm,
if they're new in the Lord and they don't know
mm,
the word very
yeah,
well. And,
yeah.
this woman is so passionate. I don't have that. You don't have to have that. You don't have to be me.
Mhm.
Be You. Be you, because who God made you to be is exactly who you need to be for your children and your family.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and good.
Mm.
You just have to believe Him, take Him at His word, and have simple faith.
All right. Well, we can drop the mic right there because that's it. That's what we all need to chew on. I mean, I'm convicted just hearing you. Do my kids see me banking it all on God's word? I hope they do, but I think we
Yeah.
can all ask ourselves, and maybe
Yeah.
this is an area if somebody out there is like, because yeah, so many people say, "Well, I'm doing all the right things," and we know you and I will agree kids have a free will. As parents, we cannot force God's word or way on them. Ultimately, they're going to have to own their own faith, and that's between them and the Lord. However, you and I have talked enough. I know you agree that there's so much we can do, and what everything you just shared, and yet perhaps that could be a missing element to a lot of people who are like, I'm checking all the boxes, but that's it. That's the ultimate box to check right there. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Mm.
you.
Oh, well, we will be linking in the show notes to what you and your husband are up to, your ministry. Maybe some people live in your area or they want to reach out to you virtually. But for anyone that just wants to find and follow you right now, where's the best place they can go?
They can go to our website at lifeways, the number four, living.com.
Yeah,
Lifewaysforliving.com. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram and all those.
awesome. Yes. And there's some great photos of your whole beautiful family over there so people can check all of you out. And then we're going to have another conversation that will be in my homeschool course about all those passions and interests that you kind of shared at the beginning that your kids all the things they do, all the things that, might have been part of their homeschooling, but also just have now developed into being part of who they are as people. So I can't wait for you to share how you inspired them, how you introduced them to things, or maybe they introduced things to you, but what that looked like. So I can't wait to share you over there. But for now, I just want to thank you for your time, for being with us. And I'm sure people might have some follow up questions. So hopefully we'll have you back again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. Aloha for now.